الدنيا تضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك. هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من حقك، بس بلاش العين. لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك. هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من حقك، بس بلاش العين.
The first thing, or rather, love is light. The first thing I want to say is that this beautiful deen of Islam that you are followers of is a deen of nur, of light. And there are many ahadith and Quranic verses that indicate to this. One of these verses is the ayah that you are looking at on the board, where Allah indicates to us that people whose hearts have been opened up to faith, they are people that are on nur from their Lord. People whose hearts have been opened up unto faith, they are on nur from their Lord. And they are not to be equated to people who do not believe. The people who do not believe, they are people that are misguided. They do not see the straightness of the path. So Islam is a religion of nur, insha'Allah, a religion of light. And there are many ahadith that indicate to this as well. For example, if you want to become the close friend of Allah, the close wali of Allah, another beautiful hadith that is on the board now indicates that if you want to become the wali of Allah, you need to first have love for those that are the existent awliya or friends of Allah. And after this, what Allah requires from you, immediately following that, is that you must do that which is fard, obligatory upon you. And after doing that which is obligatory upon you, you are required to do nawafil, optional acts. And as you continue to do optional acts, there is a point where Allah loves you. And then when Allah loves you, then Allah becomes the eye that you see with, the ear that you hear with, the hand that you grasp with, the foot that you walk with, etc. The point that I'm indicating to is that Allah becomes the eye that you see with. This does not mean that you become Allah and Allah becomes you, but rather it means that you are entirely in the obedience of Allah. Your eye sees only that which is halal, your ear hears only that which is halal, your hand grasps only that which is halal, your feet only take you to places that are halal for you to be at. But notice the point is that Allah becomes the eye that you see with. And this is mentioned in other ahadith, and it comes in the Quran also. Allah says, for example, in certain of His statements, فِيهِ آيَاتٌ لِلْمُتَوَسِّمِينَ. In it are signs for people who are able to take heed and see the signs. Elsewhere we are told, اتَّقُوا فِرَاسَةَ الْمُؤْمِنِ. Fear the insight of the true believer. فَإِنَّهُ يَنْظُرُ بِنُورِ اللَّهِ. Because he looks by the light of Allah. So truly, if you are a person of faith, and you are a person of practice of deen, then you have nur with you, and this nur will guide you. We are told also on the day of Qiyamah, that if you took wudu in a certain way, you perfected your wudu, then your limbs will actually shine on the day of Qiyamah. And besides this, due to the barakah of Iman, there will be a light in front of you. Nurun yas'a bayna aydihim. Now, why is this significant? It is significant because after Hisab, you will be told to cross a bridge. In Urdu, they call it Pool Sirat. The bridge is as thin as a strand of hair. It is as sharp as a sword. And on it is hooks that grab at people. What most don't tell you is that you will have to cross this bridge in the dark. So you need to have light. So your iman and your amal salih, your good deeds, it will be a light for you on the dunya. Because it will guide you to that which is good in the dunya, good in the qabr, and good in the year after. And on the day of Qiyamah, it will be a light for you as well. At that point, you will be tested and you will be required to cross the bridge on the way to Jannah. If you do not successfully cross this bridge, you are hooked, then you will be thrown into hell. So you need nur in your life. You need nur in the dunya, you need nur in the qabr, and you need nur in the year after. So how does love fit into all of this? I've already indicated in that hadith that when Allah loves you, He becomes the eye that you see with. Right? So Allah provides nur when Allah loves you. But let's just continue with this idea. Let us ask the question, what is the source of light in the life of a Muslim? So in this ayah, Surah Maryam, Allah says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. The people of faith and the people of good practice, they do righteous deeds, Allah will make love for them. Allah will create love for them. Where will Allah create love? Love in the hearts of His creatures. So love for you and love by you, Allah is the source. And if this ayah is not clear enough for you, there's another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ tells us that when Allah loves somebody, Allah calls Jibreel. Why does Allah call Jibreel? Jibreel is the archangel. He is the highest of all of the angels. He is an-namus, the secretary to the Anbiya, to the prophets and the messengers. He is the one that comes to them and He bears them wahi. So Allah calls Him the most senior of all angels. And Allah tells Him, Jibreel, I love so and so. So you must also love him now. And then Jibreel, he confesses and he says, Oh Allah, I love him also, Allah. Then Jibreel calls to the inhabitants of the heavens. And these are the other angels. And so, Jibreel calls to them and Jibreel tells them, Allah loves this person. You need to love this person also. And then the prophetic hadith goes on and it says that after the inhabitants of the heavens have come to love this individual, that love, it descends onto earth. And acceptance for this person is placed into the hearts of those that inhabit the earth. So what is the source of love? The source of love is Allah. We want love in our life, we need to turn to Allah. We need to beg of Allah. You want a good relationship with somebody, you want good relationships with those that are important to you and with you, you need to first create a relationship with Allah. When the relationship with Allah exists, then the relationship with everybody else will be right, insha'Allah. You will be giving them what they need and want and what is their right, and they will be giving you what you need and want and what is your right, insha'Allah. Right, so this automatically brings me to the next point. What is the first love of a Muslim? Who are you supposed to love first? And the answer is then obviously Allah. We must love Allah more than we love any other being. So Allah tells us in Surah Baqarah, verse 165, as you can see on the board, that there are people that equate beings with Allah. They love these beings as only Allah should be loved. But the true believers, they are most severe and intense in their love for Allah. There is nobody in the heart of a Muslim that is the equivalent of Allah. Yes, when the name of your beloved is spoken, there's a feeling in your heart. But what does Allah say with regard to Himself? إِلَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم. The true believers, when Allah is mentioned, their hearts, it trembles. It trembles. Why do the hearts tremble? The hearts tremble because this is the name of their beloved. This is the name of their everything. That's why Allah tells us in the Quran that Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. What does this mean? Allah is not speaking of location. Allah is speaking of need. I need my jugular vein to exist, to live. But Allah is telling me, you need me more than what you need your jugular vein. Go to the morgue. There are many dead people there. Their jugular veins are intact, but they are still very much dead. And then there are other people whose jugular veins have been severed, and we would expect immediate death or death soon after that. But by the grace of Allah, they survived long enough to come to a hospital and for their lives to be saved. It was the decree of Allah that it was not their time. As how it was the decree of Allah for those dead people that it was their time. The need for Allah is greater than any other need. This should be foremost in your heart, insha'Allah, as a believer. What should be your second love? Not only does Allah require that you love Him, Allah requires that you love those whom Allah loves. Allah requires that you love those whom Allah loves. First and foremost with regards to this is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And that is why he said that none of you have true iman until you love me more than your own child, more than your own parent, and more than any other person out there. Some people misunderstand this hadith. What is meant by love here? The ulama say what is meant by love here is the love of obedience. What is meant by love here is the love of obedience. We have natural love for our children. We have natural love for our parents. And we have natural love for other people. Yes, insha'Allah, you must have this for Allah as well. But this is a love that you have no control over. And the law in Islam is, La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah does not burden a soul with that which is more than the soul can bear. If you have no control over that love, how could Allah burden you with it? But there's another love known as the love of obedience. So when it comes to obedience, you must love Allah and His Rasul more. You love your child, but sometimes your child demands of you a thing that is haram. You must not obey the child. You love your parent. Sometimes your parent demands of you a thing that is haram. You must not obey your parent or any other human out there. لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There is no obedience to creation in the disobedience of the Creator. Who's the one that is telling you to love them? It is Allah. So their love is subject to the love of Allah. Their obedience is subject to the obedience of Allah. And when they tell you to do a thing that is not in the obedience of Allah, then you must not obey them. This does not mean that you must be rude. This does not mean that you must cut yourself off from them. It just means that on that particular point, you must not show obedience. Your obedience, that is love, is first and foremost for Allah.
لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك الحمد لله تافر وضح من حقك بس
So to continue, we are also told in hadith that if you want to taste the flavor or sweetness of Iman, you need to love someone solely for the sake of Allah. You need to love someone because this someone is the beloved of Allah. And that is the only reason that you love them. You don't love them for their money. They're going to be paying you. You don't love them because they have power and they can make certain changes in your life. You don't love them because they are famous, and when you stick with them, then inshallah you'll be famous as well. You love them purely for the sake of Allah, for no other reason. Yes, we have natural love again, like for example our husbands and wives. But sometimes this natural love, it is thwarted. Our loved ones, they do things that frustrate us. And then we become angry. So if our love is only based upon our likes and our dislikes, then you will suffer much anger in your marriage and in your relationships. But if you love for the sake of Allah, and you realize that your relationship is with Allah, it doesn't matter who you deal with. You must tell yourself, this is how Allah is testing me, insha'Allah. And I will pass the test. You must tell yourself, Allah has made me a husband. Allah has made me a wife. And Allah is watching. Am I worthy of a husband? Am I worthy of a wife? When we think of these things, then we control ourselves. Right, my time is actually running out. Right, so I'm going to have to speed up a bit. Right, I had the definition of love for you there. I'm going to run away from the definition. And I had some other discussions. I'm going to run away from all of that as well. I'm just going to run to the point of some quick advices in your relationships, inshallah. Should I skip it now? Okay. There are a number of things that you need in your relationship for it to work, inshallah, in light of Islam. Number one, we need to have an attitude of gratitude. What do I mean by this? There are many men out there without wives, and they are lonely, and they are crying, And they are lifting their hands up to the sama and they are saying, "Oh Allah, please give me a wife, oh Allah." But you have a wife and you show her no gratitude. There are many women lifting up their hands to the sama and calling out, "Oh Allah, please give me a good husband, oh Allah." But you have a husband. Are you showing the gift of Allah the gratitude that it deserves? One of the surahs in the Quran that I really love is Surah Ar-Rahman. And in the surah, one verse is repeated over and over again. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Which of the favors of your Lord do you deny? So Allah tells us, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you show thanks to me for the gifts that I bestow upon you, I will surely increase you. وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ. But if you are ungrateful, إِنَّ عَذَابِ لَشَدِيدٌ. Then my punishment will be severe. Ulama, when they discuss the second part, the punishment, they say one of the first things that happen when you are ungrateful to the gift of Allah is that Allah takes the gift away. So while you are married and you are not showing your husband thanks, and you are not showing your wife thanks, you are not repeatedly saying to them, shukran, 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 or you have the mental attitude of shukran, shukran, shukran. Now, if I'm constantly doing this, my wife is doing things for me and constantly I'm going mentally, shukran, shukran, and I'm saying also shukran, shukran, then what's going to happen after that? Number one, out of my gratitude for what she does for me, when she has the odd slip up as a human being, I will be merciful. I will show compassion. Nadat sy die 12 dinge gedoen het, doen sy een floppy. Dis mos maar niks nie, man. Een floppy uit 13. Wat is daai nou? You understand? Then also when my wife constantly hears me thanking her and showing appreciation for what she does, she tells herself, dis 'n decent man. Dis 'n goeie man. Hy sien nog al die goed in my. Huh? Now, how can a marriage like that break? How can a marriage like that break? The punishment of Allah is severe. The marriage breaks because you weren't thankful. People talak every day here in Cape Town. And in most cases, they regret it. Why do they regret it? Because an-ni'ma idha fuqidat urifat. The favor of Allah when lost, then it becomes known. The favor of Allah when lost, only then it becomes known. So that's the first, inshallah. The second is, you need to focus on the good. Whoever you marry, it doesn't matter who you marry. Whoever you look up to, even if you were that person's husband or wife, you would discover their defect. You would discover their defect. There is no perfect human being. The perfect human beings that came to the earth, the Anbiya and the Rusul, their time is ended. Their time is ended. La nabiyya ba'di. There is no prophet after me, with the sole exception that Nabi Isa is going to be coming back. But the age of perfect men has ended. So whoever you marry, man or woman, they are defective in some way or the other. If you are going to be focusing on the negative in your spouse, then you're going to dislike them. And eventually you're going to start thinking that I hate you, and I hate the way you do things. So what is the prophetic teaching? The Prophet of Allah says, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة إن كره منها خلقا رضي منها آخر. Let no believing male think that he hates a believing female. If he's displeased by one quality, he's surely pleased by another. So the point is just focus. Are you focusing on the negative quality, or are you focusing on the positive quality? And what is one of the things we've learned in life? Whatever you focus on, it grows. So if you focus on the good, it grows. And if you focus on the bad, it grows. And there's many reasons for this. One of the psychological reasons for this is that our minds are self-affirming. Our minds are what? Self-affirming. If you don't know somebody, and somebody comes and makes riba about that person to you, then you already have a negative attitude to that person. The moment you meet that person, you only see the negative. You are somehow barred from seeing the positive. Now, there are much evidences for this. Time would not allow me to discuss it, so I'll just give you one example. Have you noticed that whenever you buy a car, just before you bought it, you hardly saw that car on the road? And then after buying it, you see it everywhere. Did you have a sale on the car? What happened? So it is merely an issue of focus. You understand? Since you are now an owner of a car like that, you're suddenly aware of the car, so now you see it everywhere. Before you used to see it, yes, with the eye, but the brain wasn't making the necessary connection. Now that you've bought the car, now the brain makes the necessary connection. You understand? So focus is that connection. If you focus on the good, inshallah, then the bad will dwindle. The bad will dwindle. If you focus on the bad, then the good will dwindle. So always people ask me, ja, but Maulana, wat van die bad? Wat maak ons aan met die bad? Focus on the good. Wat maak ons met die bad? And especially for a lady, this is a very pertinent question. Because one of the highest forms of intimacy for a lady is to speak about her problems. So we call it trouble talk. So she needs to trouble talk with you. But now you need to understand that males find it difficult to handle trouble talk. Especially because your ultimate trouble talk is him. You want to tell him he's a problem. You understand? So that's the most difficult thing for a male to handle. So what we need to do with the trouble is we need to time it right. So what is the right timing? Right? So I'm going to make it simple, inshallah. The right timing is that when you address your troubles with your husband, by the end of the conversation, you will have moved towards one another and not away. So you need to get that timing. And when he comes out, when he comes home from work, the first 35 minutes after he's entered the house, that's not the right timing, eh? Studies have been done on this. That is not the right timing. And to say it like this is not the right way. Weet jy wat het jou kinders vandag gedoen? Jou kinders, not our children. So it's not the right timing, it's also not the right way. And Allah knows best. Right now. Right. Next issue, you need to act in accordance with your values and not the emotions of the moment. You are a person of Iman. Iman is your perpetual value. Act in accordance with your Iman. When you are an angry husband or an angry wife, yes, you are angry, but you are a husband. Yes, you are angry, but you are a wife. Is that our husband speaks to his wife? Is that our wife speaks to her husband? So there's many a hadith, but one will suffice. The Prophet ﷺ says you want to beat your wife like a slave in the morning, and at night you want to sleep with her. What does the Prophet ﷺ mean by this? He says that violence in a loving relationship is the opposite of intimacy. You cannot have violence and intimacy. Violence is a destroyer of intimacy. And as we have physical violence, we also have verbal violence. The things people say to their wives, Allahu Akbar. The things people say to their husbands, Allahu Akbar. It is as if there is no Allah. Or if there is Allah, it is as if He doesn't hear. It is as if He doesn't see the things that we say to one another. So act in accordance with your values. If your husband or wife is saying things that you cannot handle, don't engage them. Don't enter into civil war. Walk away. Walk away. Do what we did back in the day. Ons gaan agter na die huis, daar kap ons genoeg hout vir die hele winter. Dan as die moed lekker uit is, dan kom ek weer in, inshallah. And Allah knows best. So do something. You understand? To burn the mood. A dear friend of mine, when he and his wife has an argument, he gets into his car and he goes for a drive. If he's moderately angry, he lands up in Worcester. If he's very angry, he lands up in Joburg. But at least there's no civil war. And Allah knows best. Right, so to conclude, inshallah, you need to speak the language of love on a daily basis. Now here, there's a lot of discussion, but I don't have enough time to do it.
لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك الحمد لله تافر وضح من حقك بس
So the simple hadith on the board, the Prophet of Allah says, if you love someone, tell them. If you love someone, tell them. So there was a marriage. I'm a marital counselor for these last 18 years. So somebody calls me in. So the wife explains the problems. I say to the husband, you know what? I see now as the sense of what is happening over here. By the grace of Allah, I can help you to save your marriage. But I just need you to say 4 words. In fact, 3 words, inshallah. I just need you to say to your wife, I love you. You can do it in front of me, which is best, or you can do it when I leave. If you can just say to your wife, I love you, then I'm confident, inshallah, we can save this marriage. So what was his reply? As ek nou 'n laaitie. Die man kom aan my huis al van my vertel ek my vrou sê ek is lief vir haar. So hy weet mos ek is lief vir haar. And so my reply to him, ma, for what I'm about to say, especially during the month of Ramadan, sê hy, jou gat sien, my friend. So what happened is his wife went for a fast, and she got the fast by MJC. That marriage is dead now. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. But you could have saved it, and you just said, I love you. 3 little words. Then you got an additional problem. I like to explain this problem in this particular manner. Imagine I marry a woman from France, and I say to her, I love you, my darling. She looks at me quizzically. Ek is lief vir jou, my skatebol. أحبك يا حبيبتي. And eventually I say, Je t'aime, ma chérie. Then suddenly I get the response, oui. So why is it going right now? It's going right because I'm speaking her language, mashallah. So you see, every human being on this planet Earth has a different love language. Some like gifts. The Prophet of Allah said, Tahadaw tahabu. Exchange gifts and you will come to love one another. Some like good conversation. They want you to say words that build them up. You understand? So the Prophet ﷺ tells us, for example, Lan tadkhulul jannata hatta tahabu. You will not go to Jannah until you love one another. Afala adullukum ala... what's it down? Yes. Okay, I'm just going to go to the end because time is running out. أَفَلَا أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَىٰ شَيْءٍ إِذَا فَعَلْتُمُوهُ تَحَابَبْتُمْ. Should I not indicate you to a thing that were you to do it, you would love one another? So the Sahaba obviously said yes. So the Prophet said, أَفْشُوا السَّلَامَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Spread salams amongst you. What does that mean? Greet everybody. Greet the one you know and greet the one that you don't know. Just in greeting alone, there is love. Can you imagine such a thing? That a wife comes to me and says, Maulana, my man groetie. As hy inkom, maar loop hy net. En môreoggend as hy werk toe gaan, dan is hy ook weer groetie. Vanavond as ons gaat slaap ook, dan is daar niks. Salaam alaikum, ek gaan nou slaap, my darling. Daar is net. Maar dis nou net sien, okay, right toe, hy slaap. You understand? A small etiquette of Islam. But in it, there is love, inshallah. Greeting your wife in the morning with love. Greeting your husband in the morning with love. The Prophet ﷺ, when he came home, he would first make miswak, then he would kiss his wife. I always ask my students, wat het type soon is die wat 'n miswak require? Obviously nie die nie. No need for miswak. Somehow involve is soon tande. Daarom moet ek miswak gemaak. You understand? So the Prophet ﷺ, when he entered his house, he gave his wife a solid kiss. Nou, weet sy mos, ek is lief vir jou, man. You understand? Now, if we have this type of love, inshallah, then our marriages will not fail, man. Our marriages will not have the problems that we are suffering, inshallah. So we need to find out, you need to find out what is the love language of your spouse, and you need to speak it. It is not enough to do acts of love. You need to ensure that the act of love is interpreted as an act of love. And Allah knows best. Our relationships are like bank accounts. We are constantly making deposits and we are constantly making withdrawals. When we make deposits, we need it to be in the currency of the bank. The bank needs to understand. Is everybody with me? All right, so unfortunately my time is entirely up, so I'm going to have to end there, inshallah. We see you again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Think about taqwa, and we try to define it. A definition that will suit this presentation would be that of protection. Taqwa is that aspect that brings protection to our lives by attracting that which is good and repelling that which is bad. And we know the famous ayah where Allah says that He has completed our deen. And as Muslims, we proudly say that Islam is not a religion, it is a lifestyle. Meaning that every aspect that makes us human has been covered in totality, in theory, and in practical. And we find that the Prophet ﷺ has linked our well-being and good health to the body, to the mind, and the soul. So within the Prophet ﷺ Sunnah, we find the book of Tib Nabawi, volumes of Tib Nabawi, which refers to the medicine of the Prophet, whereby he advised the Sahaba on how to live their lives holistically. And he taught us that whatever we do, what we say, what we hear, what we smell, what we think, has the effect on our iman, but it also has the effect on every process in the body. So understand right now, if you are sitting there, understanding that every second of the month of Ramadan is better than the seconds in the week as that has passed by, and you open up your mental faculties, your emotional faculties, for healing, you will obtain that proportionate to what your belief is. So globally, there's a revival of what they call prayer medicine. Studies has been done on populations, and they recognize that everything we do has an effect on our emotions. It has an effect on how we think. It has an effect on our heart, the liver, our digestion, on our complexion. It has an effect on our thought processes. And in the attempt to help man better the situation, there's advices that are coming out of research journals. After thousands of dollars of research, lifetimes, they come to the conclusion that man should connect to nature. They've come to the conclusion that man has to worship. Because those communities that pray together, they have better coping mechanisms. There are no suicide rates in those communities. They find that people who pray together in jama'ah regularly, they are uplifted. No matter what comes their way, no matter what challenges comes your way, the deen of Islam through the sunnah brings light to our life. So when you talk about light, think about light in terms of illumination. Think about light lifting the heavy weight off our shoulders, of the digestion, of our heart, of the blood pressure, of the diabetes. Do not limit light to one aspect. Do not limit the sunnah to benefits in the akhirah, because scientific study shows right now that when you engage with the sunnah, it will benefit you right now. A simple experiment. What happens if I smile? Even if you didn't feel like smiling, you have to respond. Even if I didn't feel like smiling, it had an effect on my body. So scientific studies show that when you smile, it exerts a feeling of well-being in your body, whether you can connect to that emotion or not. And whoever sees the smile, there's a benefit for them. And the Prophet ﷺ taught us that one of the best sadaqahs is to smile. So if we analyze every aspect of the sunnah, and we approach the specialists in the field, the psychologists, the nutritionists, we approach people that's involved in emotional healing, they will tell you that everything you do. So somebody could have entered the masjid last night, very down, major distress, but because they met somebody that's practicing the sunnah and emphasizing the sunnah in the month of Ramadan, it means the spirit will be uplifted by shaking the hand, giving the smile, saying, I love you for the sake of Allah, wearing the smell of misk. Aromatherapy uplifts our emotions. What we smell has an effect. The Prophet ﷺ taught us. He loved the smell of misk and oud. And from there we find the field of aromatherapy being developed. So if we look at what we face on a day-to-day basis, our 9-to-5 jobs, traffic, air pollution, sitting incorrectly, being bombarded with deadlines, we find that we are under pressure in terms of what happens internally and the way we think. We find that work deadlines, being in contact with modern technology for too long, harms our bodies, because our bodies was not designed to work for hours on end. Why is it that during the month of Ramadan we face the same work deadlines, we face the same issues, but we can deal with it better? It is because our connection to taqwa and our connection to ibadah filters out all that harms that our workplaces bring to us. But as human beings, we don't know of the harms. So therefore, if you speak to the specialists in the field, they will tell you that every time you feel distress, there's emotions happening in your body that triggers processes. So when you live in fear, worry, anxiety, guilt, every negative emotion causes the heart to beat faster, causes the blood pressure to increase, causes the arteries to become hard, everything that leads to lifestyle diseases, everything that harms our bodies. We find that in the field of psychoneuroimmunology, it recognizes that our thought process has a direct impact on how the body functions. So if you're uplifted, if you're feeling good, if you're feeling positive, you find that the body can heal itself. But the deen doesn't require us to deny our emotions. Instead, it teaches us on how to manage our emotions. So if you think about any type of emotion that's negative, when it is exhibited for too long, when we cannot deal with it, it harms every organ of the body, decreasing our immune system and decreasing our will and productivity as well as energy. So within Tibba Nabwi, every negative emotion, the emotion of anger, for instance, when we think about anger, we say that sometimes somebody makes our blood boil. That's something that literally happens in our bodies. The heat becomes intense. It causes hyperacidity in the gastrin region, which causes the stomach to burn. It causes the liver to burn. It causes the heart to burn. Therefore, the heat has to leave the body. We have explosive anger, whereby the skin becomes red, the eyes become red, and we blurt out things that we often regret.
لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك الحمد لله تافر وضح من حقك بس
Anger is from shaitan. Shaitan is made of fire, so cool down that fire with water, and he gave us a remedy through the wudu. So from Tibba Nabwi, we gain the lesson that our acts of ibadah is not just benefit for the akhirah. So often when we do sunan, when we perform a farad, we think we'll get rewarded one day. Scientific proof shows that as you engage with that act ibadah right now, every cell in your body is feeling it. And if you open our minds to that, you are aware of it and you increase on the benefit of that. So we have various fields. Within Tibba Nabwi, it recognizes the diseases of the heart and it recognizes the diseases of the body. But it also recognizes that there's an interlink between the two. So when the heart is in turmoil, when we're suffering jealousy and pride and arrogance and hate, it harms the physical body. Because the natural state of man is to worship Allah according to the fitrah, which is the natural design. So deep down inside, every human being wants to be good. But when we have negative perceptions of each other, we harbor that thought in our mind and our bodies undergo stress. And when we connect to good thoughts, when we spread the salam, when we forgive people, when we try to get rid of our envy, our bodies benefit the most. So if you look at the different categories of stress, there are several categories. We have stress of the emotions, the mental state, the biochemical body. But the worst stress that we never take note of is spiritual stress. And that is the stress that if it's managed well, we can handle all the other stresses better. So as you can see, that zebra lost his stripes because he was stressed. So what happens if you take the lion out of the jungle, the king of the jungle, Lion King standing on Pride Rock with a chest out, golden hair, all the animals fear him. Take him out of the jungle and put him in Tigerberg Zoo. What happened to that lion? After week 1, he loses his confidence because he's in a concrete jungle. It's no more a natural jungle. So therefore, you can actually see the mane starts to lose its glow. He starts to droop his head. By week 2, he starts walking like a sheep because he's placed in an unnatural environment. So as human beings, our natural inclination is to worship Allah according to the natural means. So when we are occupied in the concrete jungle for too long, our heads droop. We become sad. We become despondent. We lose hope. And that's the cause of many of our distresses in society. So if you look at the Sunnah, hydrotherapy, the postures of Salah, the power of dua, And all of it can be measured scientifically from every harf of the Quran. It has the effect on processes of the body. So studies has been done in the field of hydrotherapy, which is known as healing with water, where every posture, every position of the wudu has major implications to the well-being of your physical body, as well as the mental state and the spiritual self. So when you wash our hands, when we wash our face, the massage soothes the tension that comes about due to stress. When we stress, we find we clench the jaw. Our muscles are tight. Stress can be seen on somebody. Therefore, you find that the awliya, they illuminate with light. They move smooth around because the effects of the ibadah. So understand, the reason why we are having contentment of the heart right now is because we're all connected to our ibadah. The reason why you can deal with things better in the month of Ramadan is because we are in a state of fasting, because we want to give sadaqah. In the past, in the Islamic Empire, when people would see doctors of tib, the doctors would give them medicine for the body, and the doctors would tell them, this blockage that you're having in your body is due to your inability to give sadaqah. Because when we are generous, we are giving the nafs away. And we are opening the road to good values. Because connected to generosity, the ability to give of yourself to somebody means that you can forgive somebody, that you can have a high opinion of somebody, that you can fend against your envy, and the list goes on. So definitely the wudu, the acts of salah, the different postures of salah, all has effects at different levels. Studies has been done on the Quran. We know that the Quran has been explained to be a shifa'ah, a healing to our minds, bodies, and souls. Studies were done on stressed individuals. On days, some of us look like that. Extremely stressed, high-strung. You know, the fury, when we give it, the fail cake throws daggers through people. Because of it, anger that we cannot get over. Studies were done on individuals like this that were stressed. And they measured their blood pressure, the electrostimulation in their muscles, and sweat secretion in their hands, because those are parameters of stress. And when they played ayahs of the Quran through earphones, they found that all the parameters of stress decreased. So the muscles became relaxed. Blood pressure became regulated. We find that the sweat secretion started to decrease simply by listening to the ayat of the Quran. And these people did not understand Arabic. They were not Muslim. Their bodies responded to the Quran. So what happens to me and you when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to the Quran in its meaning? We find that the Quran, it's described that we should recite the Quran, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, in rhythmic breaths. So to recite the Quran in a melodious manner with tajweed has effects on the body. And the physicians of Tib focuses on that. So in the field of neuro-linguistic programming, we find that what we utter regularly gets embedded in our nervous system and our brain, and it manifests on our limbs. So when you say things, the body believes it. Whatever perceptions you have, the body believes it. So when you are uttering words of dhikr, you're uplifting every cell of your body throughout the day. As human beings, we are in touch with our environment. We are connected to the changes in the light, the changes, the phases of the sun. When we sleep at night, we don't intend to sleep and then we sleep. Within the body, there's a hormone known as melatonin that starts to increase when it becomes dark. And it relaxes your body. And if you follow the sunnah with hydrotherapy and you perform your salah and you hand the matter over, you are able to sleep peacefully. So we find that the different awqat, the waqts of salah, coincides with energy levels within the body. So every waqt coincides with changes in the cosmos externally, which can be measured inside your blood. So the hormones of activity that increase starts at Fajr time. So if you're up at Fajr time every day, you will find that you will be the most productive that you can ever be. So if you look at people around the world and you ask them, if you look at the one book, 7 Habits of the Most Successful People Around the World, the one thing they all had in common was they were up at dawn. So understand that the Deen of Islam places us into the natural cycle of living that suits our bodies. Why? Because this Deen is not based on the science of man. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيُ يُوحَىٰ. The Prophet ﷺ did not speak on his own accord, except everything that came out of his mouth in form of advice has been inspired to him. So the different postures of salah, every posture has tremendous benefits for the physical body. It has tremendous benefits for the ruh. And due to time, we can't focus on each one. But just to look at some emotions that the month of Ramadan brings to instill in us, we find that the emotion of forgiveness, to forgive somebody, sometimes could be a bit hard. But if we don't forgive that person, every time we bring that to mind, we relive that traumatic event. So our bodies experience that harmful feeling that we had all the time. So studies have shown that people who forgive, they heal better. They can overcome their diseases better. So just like that, every benefit, every emotion that the Prophet ﷺ brings to us via the Sunnah, to have an attitude of gratitude means we focus on that which is good. So all of a sudden, that big problem that you have becomes a small problem. And the list goes on. The ability to give, like I mentioned, frees the one of the self, but it also benefits ourselves. It increases our self-worth. It makes us feel connected to the community of giving. It connects us to a higher purpose. Every act of charity, there's some of us that's addicted to giving charity because we know what it feels like to give. And during the month of Ramadan, that's the time where we give the most. How to look after the physical body. The Prophet ﷺ gave us details on what to eat and how to consume it. The Prophet ﷺ spoke about having a good nature at all times. So the effects that you have on food, when you utter Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, understand that it improves the efficacy, the nutrition of the food. Why is nutrition such a big focus in Tibb Nabawi? Because scientific knowledge shows us that what we consume becomes the building blocks of our bodies. It allows us to think better. If you eat certain food, a Gatsby will make you sluggish. Eating fresh fruits can make you think better. So we know this. If you, at the bukkah table tonight, and you have more fruits and veg, and you have your soup and sunnah foods, your body will be strong in Taraweeh. But if you have a Gatsby, it can take you down. You might not make it for the Taraweeh. So understand that everything we consume can either be for us or against us. And the Prophet ﷺ taught us what to consume. And not only what, he taught us how to consume it. He taught us that we should not use bad speech. Some people, due to their bad akhlaq, they can give you soy brand. Really? How often did you hear something and your stomach start to burn? It is true. Our emotion is connected to our belly. So the Prophet ﷺ said, have good speech at all time. So Tibb Nabawi teaches us that the akhlaq of the sunnah is medicine. Medicine is not confined to a tablet, but it can be found in experiences, and therefore you feel uplifted today. Therefore, every illness condition that you have can be relieved simply due to your connection to ibadah. So through the sunnah, we learn that keeping company is good. Good company. Saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is good. So the fasting process cleanses the body. It heals the body. It places us into a psychological setting that makes us receptive to so many benefits. So due to the time, we cannot focus on everything, but some of the benefits, the psychological benefits of Ramadan is that it increases our sincerity towards Allah, it improves our social ties, it leads us to patience and perseverance, it brings about positive emotions of shukr. So every act that you do connected to the sunnah benefits every part of the body. So we have to decide, how much light do we want? How much do you want your lives to be eliminated, and how much of your problems do you want dispelled? And by adopting the sunnah, all of that can be relieved. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.
لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك، هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من حقك، بس بلاش العين. لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك، هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من